Hey y'all, welcome back to Movement Link. So, productivity, this is something people like to talk about all the time. Time management, they're kind of similar, but they're very, very different. And what a lot of people do is they work really hard and they spend a lot of time and effort doing things, but they don't get very far. So remember, the ultimate thing, and this has a lot of parallels over into our momentum program and what we talk about getting results as far as your body and health, but this is kind of more towards getting things done in kind of a business professional or kind of as personal in your life setting. And the main thing to know is it's not about how much effort you're putting into things. And so many people are so proud of how much effort they put in, and they're basically turn themselves into professional email responders. So if that sounds like you, remember, it's not about how much time you spend doing things. It's about the results you're getting and how productive you are. So here's some tips that I've kind of learned over the years. I've spent a lot of time not in an office setting. I spent a lot of time in an office setting too, but now over the years I spent a long time owning the gym, running Movement Link and these other websites. What I've learned is that nobody cares how many hours I spend doing things. There's no one making sure I stand here. What matters is how productive I am. If it takes this long, doesn't matter. It's be productive, and you want every minute of your time to push yourself forward in the best possible way that it can. So the first thing I like to think about is just your environment, is the people you surround yourself with, the workspace that you've created for yourself. These things matter a lot, and not everyone is productive in different workspaces. The kind of new big thing out in offices are these big open concept offices with a lot of noise, a lot of visual people you're seeing. And for me, I'm more introverted, which comes to a surprise as a lot of people, but it's probably why I'm behind the camera right now. But anyway, I'm more introverted than most people think, and these just highly stimulating environments really, they don't stress me out in like an anxiety. They wear me out, and so I don't have near the amount of energy. So if you're someone who runs an office, it's something to keep in mind. But the real lesson here is everyone works their best in very different settings, and you've got to find what setting works best for you, and you've got to get yourself into that setting as much as possible. You got to create it for yourself, make sure it happens, and get yourself in that setting. So the other thing you got to do is remove distractions. So many people sit there and they've got their email pulled up, they've got their phones right here, maybe they've got Facebook and other things pulled up, and they have they have this open setting, or they have just a policy where anyone can walk into their office at any time and say things. And so all they've done is like, okay, now I've got my work that I'm focused on, but I have 100 different things that can take my attention away. I forget what the statistic is, but it's pretty incredible that once your focus gets taken away, how long it takes to get your mind back into where you were. So there's wasted hours, if not tens of minutes, if not an hour every day of the simple thing of I'm working on this, and then now I'm over here. Maybe I'm talking to someone, and it's like, okay, where was I? Just that whole process eats up so much time. So you got to remove those distractions. If it's put your phone on silent, if it's leave your phone out of the room, don't open your email. Leave your email for certain times. And of course, there's certain people who have jobs where they're customer service and it is about email, but that's your job. That's very different. Most people have a job where you could shut your email down, check it in the morning. You could shut it down for a few hours. You could check it. You could shut it down for a few hours and check it. That works for almost everybody. You got to find what actually makes sense for your context. But you don't want to kid yourself and say that you can't do this for this reasons. It's incredible how much productivity you get done once you start implementing some of these things. And what feels like it may put you out of touch is going to put you in more touch. So remove those distractions. Find reasons to say no. There's always people asking you to do things and to do this and to do this and go do that. So you want to really look at it. You don't want to just default to yes. you want to find reasons to say no. Obviously, you want to be a team player and you want to be able to get things done, but you've got to control the priorities that are in your career, in your life, and you've got to control those. And if you take on too much stuff, you don't have the energy to put towards the things that really matter. And then sometimes, especially if you're in a management position, a lot of people are asking for this help and you want to give them help, but the help that they ultimately need is more guidance on how to get there themselves in the future, and the help they don't need isn't necessarily hand-holding through the task or you doing part of the task. So depending, and it's very different depending on obviously what your job is, but find reasons to say no to things. Don't be a jerk. We want to be a team player, but you also have to value what you do and what you need to do, and you've got to be able to put 100% of yourself into that. So another thing that really helps is a boomerang or a trigger. And so I have just kind of a folder of, oh, here's like a paper. Here's something I got in the mail. Here's a bill I have to pay. Here's something that I need to look at. Now's not the time. I stick it in this folder and I just have this folder with me. And then once a week, every so often, I pull things out in the folder and I act on them, or I plan when I'm going to act on them and get them out of the folder. So I kind of have this inbox where I can just push things to the side. My emails, I leave things unread until I'm ready to come to it and address it. So just kind of having a system that allows you to not get distracted. You're working on this, you have this email, you need a way to be like, okay, but not right now, because right now I'm doing this, and then now it's time to address this stuff, and now let's put our focus in it. And dividing up and sectioning your time off like that is extremely valuable. This is so simple. A lot of people already do this, but I am baffled how many people don't keep a calendar. People try and remember things, and it is just absolutely baffling to me. A calendar can be so important, especially when we start getting to the health and lifestyle things about when we're going to do some meal prep, or when we're going to go to the grocery store to go shopping, or if we have this annoying little thing like getting our car inspected, when are we going to go do that? Not to mention keeping up with clients, whatever meetings you have, whatever's going on at work and in your personal life, parties, birthdays, these things. Keeping a calendar, there's a million different ways you can do it. You can do it online, on your phone, you can do a paper calendar, but there's so much value into keeping a calendar. Having a to-do list, and then using that just to get things off your plate. And usually what I see is a lot of people are so incredibly overwhelmed because they have 20 things they need to get done. And once they write down their things they need to get done and they can start checking it off their list, it's incredible how much control they gain back. And not only do you get to prioritize off your to-do list because you feel like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. Sometimes when you write it all down and you have it staring at you, it's pretty easy to go back and prioritize. And it's pretty easy to be like, oh, there's 5 things here that I actually can't do anything about right now. And so there's 5 conversations that I can get going over there that can kind of work in the background while I prioritize this other stuff. So really it's prioritizing your to-do list and then just letting yourself keep track and check things off. It's incredible that when it's on paper and you're not trying to juggle it and remember it, it's extremely stressful to be like, oh, I need to remember to do this. Oh, I need to remember to do that. So stressful. Get it on paper. Get it. There's a lot of apps you can use, phone apps. There's a Gmail app. So many things you can use for a to-do list. So helpful. And then time blocks. So this kind of goes back to some of these other things. But what I have found is I found when I'm most productive for different things. And so just to give you an example of kind of what my days typically look like is I wake up, I have coffee, I do some mobility, move around and do these things. Usually I'm done with that by about 8 a.m. And so I start working at 8 a.m. and I kind of have a chunk of time that I'm working. It usually goes to 10 or 11 where I take a break, go have lunch, kind of cool down a little bit, maybe read, maybe watch a little YouTube, usually trying to learn something new, come back, have another chunk a sprint of work, go work out later in the day. So I have kind of these managed things, and then usually I don't start coaching until later in the day. And then I have clients or I have classes starting at about 2 and going sometimes up until like 8 or 9 p.m. So it's a pretty full day. But what I found is it's very manageable for me. But now let's flip it. And what I found is if I coach early in the morning, it's a very social, high energy thing to coach. And if I coach early in the morning, then I can get the same amount of clients and classes in. And then after that, I'm good for very little work. I just don't have the brain power. It's a different time of day. I have just learned I can get this much work done and coach this much, or I can coach the same amount and get this much work done. So I found just how my circadian rhythm, how my energy levels go through the day, how my brain likes to work. When I am working in the morning for the first more than half of the day, it's easy. I'm not even grinding for the most part. I want to do the things that I'm doing. When I am working after I've coached, it's incredible. It is a grind, and it's forced myself to do it. So really, with the time blocks, what I've learned is that I have to protect the first half of my day, because the first half of my day, that productivity I get that's easy, less stressful, and it doesn't leave me kind of emotionally fatigued, is so incredibly valuable to me. So I've learned to block off the first of the day, and yes, I'll have meetings or clients or do things in there every now and then, but for the most part, I am protecting that part of my day because I know how valuable it is to my productivity, and I know that no matter what I do then, I can always get myself ramped up for coaching. But that's a highly exhausting thing, and I've got the rest of the night and sleep to kind of recharge me. But if I do that in the beginning, I find it really hard to get recharged in a way where I can be creative and get my work done. So just some things. Remember, it's not about how much time you spend doing. It's not about how much effort you're putting into things. It's about using tools and strategies and thinking about productivity really from the sense of what are you actually getting done. And every minute we spend needs to be a minute pushing this in the right direction. And obviously you don't have to be so strict on it, but because every minute you save can be a minute put into being happy, doing a hobby, cooling down, relaxing, reading a book, doing a million different things. If you're someone who has to work for a set amount of time every day, it is incredible if you start being productive, what that can do for your career, because then you get to the point and you realize, oh man, maybe even though I'm spending 8-hour days and getting stressed out, maybe I'm actually only doing 3 hours of work. And if I actually prioritize and get that 3 hours of work in, maybe I can start trying to get my foot in the door with other people and other projects to push my career forward. Anyway, there's a lot of cool books written about productivity. Definitely some self-help stuff that's worth looking into, because once you start implementing some of these ideas, it is amazing what you can get out of it. Hope this helps. Talk to y'all soon.